Mm.
And we can go ahead and bring it up right here.
Mm.
Mr. Albert.
Mr. Albert Bell. Talk
So
about it.
this kind of a new segment, something that me and Sis gonna be doing within the Read the Room show right here, where we gonna talk, kind of bring up some of the fighters that's less knowledgeable, that's very talented within the sport, but not getting some of the bigger opportunities that the other bigger names are within
Less
their
known. Hmm.
divisions.
Less
And
known.
Albert Bill is a true defining person of this right now. The man is 28-0, 9 knockouts. He's fighting currently in the 135-pound division. He's ranked in a couple of sanction bodies right now. The main sanctioned body that he's shooting for is in the IBF currently right now. And you just see, the resume from Albert Bell right here. He just fought recently. He fought Keith Hunter and um uh,
One.
and won that fight clear by unanimous decision in that fight. He done fought twice this year in Ohio and Toledo. Salute to my brother Marcus from Ohio Runs Boxing, by the way. Let me go ahead and shout that out and start that off while we talking about my brother Albert Bill. And he's been active. Of course, Albert Bill was signed during the top rank, but he ended up parting ways from top rank in 2022. And I want just to build foundation into a little bit insight of Albert Bill. I got this article and I want to read this article to y'all right here about Albert Bill right here. And this is from Ring Magazine. So it said Albert Bill to campaign at lightweight. There are guys at 135 that duck me at 130. Hopefully that cycle changes. So he said Albert Bell has given up on anyone of note that looking his way in current weight division. The ring has learned that the unbeaten contender will now try his hand at lightweight. From a physical standpoint, it makes sense for the ring's number 10 junior lightweight contender to add 5 more pounds to his 6 foot frame. And exact time frame was not specified for its lightweight bout. And just by the way, this article was from a few months ago. By the way, just having more context to this for the storyline for this. So it says he will then hope to seek out those who also moved up in weight. So going on, he said, I'm excited to move up to the lightweight division. Bill told the ring. There are guys at 135 that dug me at 130. Hopefully that cycle breaks. I definitely want to be a part of it and in the mix with the best. It said 135 is where all the smoke is at. So I see you all at 135. And Vic Green, Bill's promoter, shout out to my dog Vic Green from Post Boxing out there in Ohio. Said confirmed to the ring that the four major sanctioning bodies, the WBA, the WBC, IBF, and WBO, were all notified of the team decision for as Bill moving up, which is no Bill. At that time he was the number 6 with the WBO, number 12 in the WBC, and number 14 in the IBF, which currently he's up in the IBF in all of those rankings now. And the lack of support from the four alphabet crews has hindered Bell's ability to land notable fights. It was an issue even when Toledo, Ohio's product was signed to top rank before the two sides amicably parted ways in early 2022. Bell has largely fought on shows promoted by Green's Post Boxing in Toledo. He's landed on August 2023 OTX overtime show in Atlanta. A fight opportunity was kicked off his current 3 fight knockout streak. There was there was no return call. However, his last 2 fights have been quick hits in Toledo versus recognizable but faded names Jason Velez and former IBF junior lightweight titleist Jonathan Romero. And it says the junior lightweight division not only remains spread out in terms of the best willing to face each other, lightweight is bursting with young, hungry talent that is a scenario that eventually work in Bill's favor. It's no secret I was the guy to stay away from at 130, said Bill. From my current view, most of those guys at 135 are not afraid of taking challenges, and that's what makes boxing great. So just adding more context into what Albert Bell was saying pretty much. Albert Bell was campaigning at 130, and he was on top rank. And a lot of the fighters at top rank around that 130-pound division, some of them guys that was top in that division that was on top rank, they weren't trying to fight him. And I got a little more context to that of me speaking about that. And let me go ahead and pull this video up speaking about that. And y'all be shocked at some of these names that's involved with this, just
I'm
to
not
add more
shocked.
context.
And then sometimes it doesn't work. Like, for instance, it didn't work, unfortunately, for Barboza when he was calling out Teofimo all this time. It never panned out. But
Albert Bell,
another guy, we had him all this time. Another kid took every fight.
man.
And guys, and I don't want to mention the guys that we still have to this day. They turned Albert Bell down. Champions.
How's that work though? Why do you cut ties with the guy that can't get the fight and keep the guy that's not taking the fight?
Because nobody wanted to fight him. It wasn't fair to Albert anymore. And now you see he's in the same situation. He was trying to go to DeBello's, trying to go to Hearn. He's trying to get fights. Nobody wants to fight the kid. Who wants to fight a 6'1", 130-pounder? It's a hard guy to fight, man.
Nah, and let me tell you.
May the best man win.
Okay, all right. Last question is a upcoming bout.
That's the champ right there.
Yeah.
Duke Reagan.
Okay.
2020 silver medalist. It's my guy, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yo, shouts out to my man Ohio runs boxing.
That's my guy, Marcus.
Yes, shout out to my brother Ohio runs boxing, by the way, man, for sure, man. My brother, man, for sure. On the clip right there, that was Brad Goodman from Top Rank speaking about Albert Bell, saying that they had to part ways from Albert Bell because they couldn't do anything justice for him because the top guys he mentioned, champions within that division at 130, they didn't want to fight him. They didn't want to take the risk of fighting a guy that's 6 foot, no, at 130 pounds and a long rangey guy with a little bit of power and got some great skills. What you think about it, sis, on that?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely an unfortunate situation. I appreciate the fact that they were like, yo, go ahead somewhere that maybe you can find some fights because we can't find none over here for you, instead of just putting him on the shelf and letting him get rusty. So I can respect that aspect, but I have the same question as I didn't see who that was. They were a little like more in the background that said, why cut the guy who can't get the fights instead of the guy who's declining the fights? You know what I'm saying? Like that to me definitely didn't make any sense, but I understand it's the nature of the business. I feel like that for a couple of these guys, you know what I'm saying? Especially if they are low, high risk but low reward, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's almost like you kind of got to be in the middle. You can't really showcase your skills because then it's like you're gonna scare a lot of competition away.
Absolutely, absolutely, sis. And with the whole situation with Albert, is Albert's a guy to where like he's very humble about the whole situation. He's not, being outspoken so much to where like, he's crashing out about the, situation it is. He's handling the situation well, even though he know it's definitely a frustrating situation where you're one of the, the top talented guys within the 135 division, and you're not able to get some of these bigger money fights and bigger names and accomplish the goals that you want by wanting to get some of these belts and stuff within those divisions. You know what I mean? So it really is really crazy. And I got another clip too, sis, with Brad Goodman as well right here. So let me go ahead and play this one right here. Salute to my brother Ohio Runs Boxing and Ness out there from the boxing voice on this one too as well.
Because then I get labeled as the Shakur hater, but I heard you offered Shakur. What's the kid from Ohio?
Albert Bell in the bubble.
And he turned it down, but he's on interview saying he never turned down a fight. Bell tells me
maybe it never. Listen, fighters don't turn down anybody. It's their representatives.
So there was an offer.
Listen, I love Jamel Herring too, but he was offered Albert Bell. Now, whether it got back to Jamel Herring, that I don't know. But
don't throw it on Herring. Were they both
no,
offered?
they were both offered the fight.
Okay, Shakur and Herring were offered.
Albert Bell, another good buddy of mine. We had to release him because nobody wanted to fight him. And we left on
to be clear, Shakur didn't take the fight. Or his team.
The team turned it down. They wanted
Shout out to James Prince.
And they had other options. But there's nothing wrong with that. You know. Doesn't mean that they're scared of Albert Bell or Jamel Herring's scared of Albert Bell. They're representatives. I mean, that's who we go to. We don't go to the fighter directly. If we went to the fighter directly, fighters would fight anybody.
Now, for sure.
The Albert's Bell credit, we gave them those opportunities, but we just couldn't make them. We proposed the fights, and the other guys, wouldn't take it. But Albert Bell took every one of the fights that we offered him.
Hard question coming at you like a fastball. Is that why Navarrete took super champion status, to avoid Albert Bell?
Like I said, he can be offered the fight, but the representatives have to take it. Now, you can't blame a guy like Navarrete, for not taking a fight like that. He'd rather go an easier route. Albert Bell is a tough out for anybody.
Herring just confirmed he's right. My team was offered a fight, but they chose Oquendo because I was getting ready for Frampton, who has similar stature. I won't sit up here and lie.
Yeah, and it's not like Jamel turned it down, because, if I went to Jamel and said, yo, you got to fight Bell, he's going to do it. Fighters fight. That's why they have representatives and managers, to make that final call.
I got to talk about my guy. Tell me, we about to get a press release. Ernesto Tito Mercado.
Sis. Powerful right there, sis. What you think about that clip right there from Brad Goodman right there?
There's a lot of things to unpack in that particular clip, right? So first of all, shout out to Brad Goodman with his word placements, and definitely shifting the responsibility on the management team instead of the fighters. So I kind of agree and disagree, right? Like, so I don't believe that all these fighters will just fight any goddamn body. That I just don't believe, right? Some of them will turn down opportunities when presented with them. However, I do understand that business is business, and sometimes your management team will make a decision based on where they think you are in that said business, right? Based on your trajectory in that business. So I completely 100% get that. But it goes back to what I said before. You can't be too good or niggas just ain't going to want to fight you. You know what I'm saying? People's managers and other people's promoters and handlers are in these crowds, and they see what you got going on. And if your name comes across their desk, because really it's their business to see what's going on with everybody. But if your name comes across their desk, they're gonna be like, ugh, I'm kind of in the middle of building this guy's reputation. He got a little buzz. I don't really know if we want Albert Bell to shut his buzz down right now. So this is really just like, it's gonna be one of those things where it's like you see Albert Bell on somebody's resume, and it's gonna be like, who he ain't fighting nobody if you're not familiar with who this guy is. You know what I'm saying? He's a real problem. And a lot of these guys and their management teams know it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I hope he definitely gets the opportunity, because it sounds like he definitely, somebody that we definitely need to know more about. And it sounds like he needs to be up here holding one of these belts instead of some of these niggas that we got holding these belts now. But I want to go back to something that was said previously, maybe on a conversation that we had prior to this, about how some of these boxers do not manage their own careers. So I just kind of want that to sink in, as we heard Brad Goodman say 2 and 3 times, their management team, their handlers, or the guys who manage them. Things like that is important, because a lot of these guys do not have control over their own careers. Hence, they could, like he said, it went to the management team. So maybe Shakur didn't even know he got an opportunity for Albert Bell, although I suspect he does. As Jamel Herring just confirmed, oh yeah, it went to my team. So that prior. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure that their team's responsibility is also to discuss the opportunities that come across their desk. So that is very interesting and very powerful right there.
Absolutely, sis. I agree with you 100%. Like that, what you said as
Mute your
far
TV.
as with
Mute your
Brad
TV.
Goodman. Yeah, yeah. With Brad Goodman, he said something very valuable where he was speaking about it wasn't Shakur himself, it was his teams. Basically, when some of these situations, that's why I be trying to tell some of these guys when it comes to the business with negotiations with some of these fights, these fighters, some of these fighters don't be actually scared of, you know, the guy that they're trying to get, these guys to fight. Like, for instance, like an example, I don't believe Anthony Johnson was ever scared to fight Deontay Wilder, but Eddie Hearn, he's Anthony Joshua's handler, and I felt, in my opinion, that Eddie Hearn shied away from making that fight happen for a long time with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. That's just my opinion on it. And it works like that within the business. You got something to say? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and that goes back to kind of what we were talking about last night as well, with the whole, Virgil Ortiz earlier today too. Virgil Ortiz. I don't believe Virgil Ortiz is afraid to fight Boots, but I kind of think that Oscar kind of wants to dance around this and draw this out as long as possible.
Right, and maximize his bag as much as possible too, as well. That's another thing too with some of these situations with some of the fighters' handlers, whether it's their promoter or their actual manager, to where some of these guys they want to build their fighters, up much as possible to where when it is time where the pressure's on and you done fought everybody and you have to fight that one guy, it comes to where you got to put your guy in there and maximize the bag at that point. You know what I mean? And I think some people, handlers, they're very careful on who they want to have maximize their bag with certain particular fights because they know the styles as far as the matchmaking, etc. On certain fights and stuff.
Hmm.
Top Rank is the best at this. They're the best at knowing, like, they're very confident in Brian Norman to beat Devin Haney right now. You know what I mean? Like, that's why they like, hey, we're backing Brian Norman Jr. right now behind this fight. Because we're very confident in him to beat Devin Haney. And they got the best matchmaking in the game. Look at a lot of the fighters that they built up in recent time and with, Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, Bud Crawford. Like, you look at, some of the fights that they've had and, on their resume and stuff like that. Like, and then you go with, PBC and these other, companies. A lot of these companies put their fighters in particular fights for them to learn and get experience and develop for a reason. You know what I mean? That's why I don't be wanting to crazy shit on a lot of these fighters' resumes when I sit back and look at it in retrospective. But when we have these conversations, when we have debates with resumes and stuff, it play then we start having different conversations to where it may not go in a lot of people's favor and stuff because a lot of people look at resumes different from the way we do.
Well, I think that's an interesting point, right? And I think that that's obviously always going to be a hot button topic, because a lot of people don't want to read the room, right? Because not only
Absolutely,
are these
sis.
boxers just boxers, they have a whole team of people surrounding them that pretty much tell them what to do. And I'm not going to sit up here and just completely shit on boxers' IQ, but let's be honest, they pretty much do what they're told until they get themselves to a position to where they take control of their resume and the rest of their career, right? So it's a thin line to me because we don't want you, constantly fighting tomato cans. And then when you get in there with somebody that you probably should have been in there with kind of years ago to learn their style and correct whatever mistakes you could possibly make, you're a little late, i.e., Edward Berlanga. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of guys with
Absolutely.
puffed up resumes because their handlers and their teams are trying to maximize the dollar.
Absolutely. And it comes down to exactly what you just said, sis, where they're trying to maximize these fighters' dollars as much as possible. Look at Fundora, why he vacated the WBO to fight Tim Zoo, what I'm saying, in a rematch. You know what I mean? Samson and PBC, they felt like the biggest bag for him at the moment was to fight Tim Zoo in a rematch rather than fight Xander Zayas for in a mandatory fight where he was going to end up defending the WBO and the WBC. and they vacated the title where Xander, they gave Top Rank a layup. Fundora, he was the one that on like he was on record. I played it in my show a couple days ago where Fundora said that he felt the WBO and top, Top Rank is heavy influence with the WBO, where he felt like after he fought Cordell Booker, boom, they put the mandate on Xander right after that. And like, what I'm saying? Like, damn, y'all didn't even get to let me get a break. Like it ain't been a month. Damn, 2 weeks later after I have a fight, y'all mandating this shit. Like that, it just shows the how crooked the business is in so many different angles. And it ties back into this particular topic that we talking about with Albert Bill, where it's not even no, in depth. Albert Bell, his situation is so sour, sis, to where, of course, we had the situation where, like, yeah, they offered him to fight Jamal Heron, and then you seen in that clip where Brad Goodman, they was talking, and Jamal Heron, he confirmed to the boxing voice that yeah, they declined the fight because they was taking an easier fight at the time. He confirmed it, and around this time this was, around 2023 right here. And then this was something that right here, this was real wow at this moment because Albert was really at this time when he was at 130, Albert was campaigning at 130 and it was a slew of fighters at 130 at that time. That was, and a lot of them was around one at top rank. So of course, Albert Bell was number one, at one point, and this actual graphic right here. This is in September 16th, 2023, right here. And this is from my brother Ohio Run Boxing. He said Ohio has another number one mandatory from Toledo, Ohio, Albert Bell, and his opportunity is coming very soon at 130. So you see him right here. Albert Bell was number one in the rankings right here at this point. And
That's
you got guys
crazy.
like Abraham Nova at three, Leon
Hmm.
Wilson at five, Oscar Valdez at six, Eduardo Nunez at eight, Henry LeBron at seven. You see those guys with those names on there. And a lot of those guys were all top ranked guys, right? So fast forward here even more right here to add context to the situation and that you got this graphic right here of Charles Conwell and Albert Bill right here from my brother Ohio Rose Boxing. And he was saying these two are, these two guys, Charles Conwell and Albert Bill, is getting in position for mandatory title shots. So you see them right here in both situations in the WBC and the WBO, where Albert Bill he was at number two, and you got Charles Conwell at number one. And this is in 2023 in June, as far as the date around this time. And the crazy part about all of this, after a while, they wiped when he wasn't able to get certain fights that Brad Goodman mentioned with like Shakur Stevenson and Jamal Heron at 130. They wiped Albert Bell from the rankings at 130.
That was trash. I just want to go on record saying that. That was absolute
They
trash.
literally wiped Albert Bell away from the rankings, sis, from 130. And because these guys that top rank and Brad Goodman, like I just announced, they were trying to make these fights, and these guys wasn't trying to fight him. And it wasn't the actual fighters, like Brad Goodman said, it was their team, it was their handlers. And it's because of the risk. They're looking at Albert Bell as high risk, low reward. I'm not going to make a
Hmm.
lot of money fighting you, and you're a high risk, and you have the size and the talent to beat me. We're not going to put that on the line right now at this very moment when we're trying to build up as well. Because you have to think about it, 2023, around that 2022 and 2023, at that time, Shakur was making a transition from 130 to 135 at that time,
Hmm.
and which is, a lot of people believe that Shakur moved to 130 get away from fights like Aberbill, Ashaki Foster, and those guys. And you think about it in retrospective, like I said, it wasn't on Shakur's team, like Brad Goodman said. I mean, it wasn't on Shakur, it was on his team. It was on Jay Prince and Josh Dubin, his managers. They
Yeah,
chose the route to go up to 135 and fight Yoshino. They chose the route to, after that, go ahead and fight Autumn Haru Tayan for their last fight on Top Rank on the deal.
hmm
They chose to fight Kid Austin on their first. Well, my bad. Let me my bad. Let me rewind. They chose to sign with Matchroom and fight Joe Cordina, and then he ended up getting his hand hurt, and then he ended up signing up to fight Kid Austin after that. They chose for that. They chose to where we're going to fight Williams Cepeda pretty much, and he's our mandatory, and we're going to take this fight. It's all upon that team. And just to even add more context, even before the deal, when the man Shakur was a free agent, they
hmm
chose to not engage in preliminary talks and more negotiations in a fight with Tank Davis in 2024 after Lomachenko got out of negotiations with Tank Davis. Jay Prince and Josh Dubin, they chose that. They chose not to fight Aberbill when the fight with Aberbill was offered to them.
So it just appears that they don't really want him in tough fights. Is that what we're going with?
So in the midst of this, sis, the Shakur fans won't go for it, but if you want to, like you just said, we being honest, and we're reading the room here. We're clearly reading the room very clear. Shakur team is being very careful on the fights that they want to take for Shakur Stevenson, and Aberbill was one of them. Nasty work, sis. It's nasty work to really digest and think about it in retrospective. It's real live nasty work. But his fans won't see it that way, though. They won't never see it that way. And that's just the midst of it, for real. And like I said, at one point with Albert Bell at 130 when he was on with Top Rank, he was at the top of the sanctioning bodies. You seen it? I showed it up here. This was the WBC right here. This was WBC. No, this was the WBO. Actually, my bad. This was the WBO in the rankings. High in the rankings in the WBO. Charles Conwell as well. Both of these guys were getting dug by certain fighters within their divisions to where they didn't get certain opportunities. Of course, Charles Conwell now, he's on Golden Boy right now, and which is he has one more fight on his deal currently with Golden Boy. And I just showed y'all and talked about it earlier at 154 how Charles Conwell, he was ranked in the IBF for a couple of months and he's not even in the rankings anymore. But they have him at number 13 currently in the WBC right now. And at this time, when certain fights wasn't upon for Aberbill as well, they wiped him off the map from the rankings. And he had to fight other fights and stuff to get back in the fold and get back in the rankings and stuff. And and it just shows y'all the struggles that some of these fighters that's has extreme
Go through.
great talent. Some of them don't get the opportunities because some of these guys don't want to fight guys with particular styles and for certain particular reasons. And this Albert Bill story that we bring into the table tonight is something that wanted to really push out there and show to y'all that this is what some of these fighters go through in boxing. The, what you think, sis?
Nah, for sure. I don't think that, it could be explained any better. This is definitely what a lot of fighters go through, like I said before. High risk, low reward, or, it's like you can't be too good. You almost got to be like, not mediocre, but you got to be like, okay, in order to guarantee yourself more fights.
Right. And it's nasty
It's
work just to sit
unfortunate,
back and
really.
think about it because the sanctioned bodies play games with the situation. Then you got the promoters and the promote like the managers. They play games with the situations along with the sanctioned bodies, saying, "Oh, yo, don't take him out of the rankings. We ain't here even having him in the rankings. You know what I'm saying? We don't want him to be close and even being in a position to fight my guy." They like the game is so dirty where they man. That's why like the sanction bodies with that whole TKO situation says they really made this shit so hard on their behalf because they've done so much scat business over the past 100 some years within this sport to where you got guys like Turkey and Dana and TKO and Zulfa trying to revise this Ali Act because of some of the scare business that they had. Their talking points against the Ali Act is all upon the sanctioner bodies. That's why they saying we ain't gonna acknowledge the sanctioner bodies. We're acknowledging the Zulfa belt and the ring belt, and that's it.
And that's exactly why I said what I said. That with Virgil Ortiz's manager crying in Turkey, it's like you want somebody else to do your job. No wonder they about to take over. No wonder. Literally, it's no wonder because look at you begging Turkey to make that fight when you and Eddie Hearn and Matchroom can sit down and make that fight with no problem. There should be no
Facts.
problem.
Should be no problem. And like I said, sis, no, you got situations with the like Eddie Hearn. I heard him last night after Booth's press conference, and which is I think I
Oh,
can't
hating
wait for.
hard. You heard that?
I
Hating
really wish I
hard.
would have got the clips of that. I didn't get the clips of that, but I heard him say something that was real, no, really, no, mind-boggling for me, where he said that I'm not trying to revise the Ali Act. I'm not trying to, have my own boxing league. Like he went at Dana and them heavy in the press conference last night, where he was like, we're trying to, build and do what we do over here and do our thing, which is with that whole to add more context a little bit to that situation. Though we didn't get to talk about it as far as matchroom boxing. They're signing a lot of their they're giving up away a lot of their stake, a lot more to Turkey Al Sheikh and Salah and company over there.
Oh, I know.
And with that situation right there, you know you got you got Eddie Hearn saying that he's possibly thinking about getting into MMA, and see Turkey and Dana
No,
White,
Turkey
they're
wants him in
not
the
on one
MMA.
accord. That's one
No,
thing
they're
that
not.
people's not understanding about their situation, that they're not on one accord for real. Because if Turkey's able to make deals with these other promoters when Zulfa and TKO supposed to be his baby and having Dana White run that portion of this new boxing league that he's trying to have going on with Dana White. Why is he in the mix with these other guys and supporting these other guys like this? And Dana White, he's a very strong-headed guy. We seen it when Turkey was trying to announce something at the Bud Crawford and Canelo press conference.
Hmm.
Turkey was want to announce something, and Dana was like, "Nah, we ain't announcing that." And you remember when we did our first reader room where we talked about with Eddie Hearn. Eddie
Yeah.
Hearn, he he said that Dana White and Turkey's going to bump heads because of both of their egos on and they both
Hmm.
have different thoughts and different mindsets on and views on stuff that they want to do, and that's going to clash. And Turkey is the guy that if you don't do what he says you want him to do, he cutting your head off.
That's crazy.
And Dana White doesn't serve as a guy that looks like he's going to just, you know, just bow down and bow down and let the work do itself and just do whatever Turkey tells them to do.
He's not.
The money would only be the reason why he does so. It's just nasty work, sis. It's really nasty work. It really is.
Well, we
Like just
already know that Eddie Hearn is on his knees. We've been knew that. But more importantly, he's 100% correct because that's what I think he meant by that comment. He's not going to do what he's told. I will. You know what I'm saying? Because he probably knows that Dana White probably got some other shit up his sleeve. I believe he's going to use Turkey's money to build as much, of this business as he can, and then tell him to kick rocks.
man says, oh my God, that's crazy. That's a really crazy process thought because you think it the same way I am. We read in the room with it. Like it looks like this. And I said this over the past few weeks that I don't think that relationship with Dana White and Turkey is going to work within what they have going on. I don't think it's going to last. That's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna definitely see for sure. But it just shows you though this this boxing. I always say this with boxing. Boxing is the dirtiest sport there is. It's so many dirty aspects from this sport that's been going on over 100 some years within this sport. From you do it on your boxing dirty streak and secrets is where you didn't expose a lot of stuff for as the mob, the mafia, and you know so much different stuff for us,
I just
TV
exposed Dana White to
scandals
their
and
little, yeah, their TKO league. I just did one on that the other day.
yeah,
About how many things that they have acquired while we're sleeping, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? The majority stake they now own in DAZN. They have part of ESPN. They've now have MSBC in Africa along with half of Saudi Arabia, which means they're getting ready to control the entire media. You think that boxing scene got booted out of the Canelo versus Crawford fight? That was only the beginning. That's why
facts,
I said y'all keep on begging Turkey to put on y'all fights. Okay, okay, okay.
facts.
Look up, y'all ass
And,
ain't even
and
gonna have a
not even
promotion
looking at the
company run
market
it.
of how it is. Like he just took Berturbiev off the card for November 22nd.
I saw that. I reported on that on my news portion. Baturian has an injury or something, so they say.
Yeah, I didn't hear about no injury from Berturbiev. I see the video clip of him for training the other day. So I didn't hear about the injury portion
Mm-hmm.
of that, but that's weird that
Mm-hmm.
they took him off the card though. Like, cause I mean. All right, something. Say when something happened with Yardy, then who you gonna replace him with?
That's a
See,
good
this
question.
goes into the Turkish matchmaking, where like I remember seeing um, Oscar De La Hoya's tweet a couple weeks ago, where he said, "Turkey, fire your matchmakers,"
Yeah. Yeah, man.
said that Turkey's matchmakers is horrible. Like, no, Turkey. I said Turkey is the guy that has a lot of these fighters' numbers and he's directly calling these guys and trying to make fights, and he seriously is. Keyshawn Davis in the interview, he the one that exposed that. He said it himself. He said that man called Teofimo Lopez when I met that man the first time I met him. Say I called Tio, he called Teofimo Lopez was trying to make the fight happen, and Teofimo Lopez was on the phone acting shell shocked like he didn't know what to say.
Yeah, that's because he's not supposed to do that. So why these trainers are allowed, why these, boxing promoters are allowing him to get so close to their fighters, who knows? Because there's supposed to be a buffer. You know what I'm saying? A wall in between him and your fighter.
Absolutely. Your Cash Sports, Uncle Cash Sports said that's what you call corruption. For
Amen.
real.
Talk about it.
It really is. It truly is. Like, just think, the man Turkey done bought Ring Magazine to fuel all of his propaganda that he wants to spill out there on the internet and bought out Michael Benson. Michael Benson was a guy that had, he was just making a lot of reports for us, boxing on his Twitter page. He bought out Michael Benson's Twitter page and made it Ring Magazine.
I remember that he wanted to
Bought out
inherit
Mike
those
Coppinger from
followers.
ESPN
Yep.
Even Jay Donovan from Boxing Scene, he's over there on Ring Magazine. I just noticed that. Like he's over there on Ring Magazine. And shit, Boxing Scene, they can't even cover no fights with Ring Magazine or Riyadh season. Because they don't rock with Boxing Scene. And they ain't covered the fight since the Canelo Majimov. I mean the Bull Crawford Majimov card last year.
Nope.
You got the Inside the Ring, this new show with he done got Max Kellerman back into the game to fuel a lot of his propaganda that he wants to spill. Along he has Mike Coppers on the show. Then he got Shady McCoy, NFL retired player. No, which is I love Shady McCoy in football, but why the hell is he on the show in boxing? I'm trying to
That's the
understand.
million
Like
dollar
he's
question.
a pure cat. He don't know the sport. Like I don't know why he's on the show. Max Kellerman that came back and got worse. We already know Mike Coppinger. Mike Coppinger, he been on his knees for Turkey from out the gate.
Yeah, Max Kellerman
So I
really
mean, you see
disappointed
the
me because
moves that
I
Turkey
liked
makes,
him.
like with Ring Magazine, like a lot, like the rankings and all of that shit. Like Shakur being up 135, he's number one at 135. Like that's nasty work.
Yeah,
Like you
super
know what I'm saying?
nasty
A lot
work.
of people don't feel Shakur's the best fighter at 135.
First of all, it's heavily, that's what I said in, in my video. He's controlling what now his own sanctioning bodies, the rankings, and he's controlling the press and the media. So he's putting them basically essentially in a golden cage. He's eliminating any other type of promotional companies, i.e., eliminating any type of competition. They're going to go from, independent contractors to employees.
Facts is facts, and like I look at the propaganda that's used fueled through Ring Magazine, where it's like everybody goes along with everything that be reported from them guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then like they don't see the propaganda where like they try to paint, crazy narratives on certain people within the website from IG and Twitter and Facebook and on, the actual YouTube channel for Ring Magazine. It's a lot of crazy propaganda that they push. Like you seen how they was doing with Tank after the Rose fight. Like, no, it was trolling Tank and doing a whole bunch of extra shit. Like
That's
that's
what I
why I
mean.
said
It's
like
not.
with boxing,
It,
it's so much of a messy ass dirty sport, sis. It's
And
so messy, dirty in so many
shame on
aspects.
Oscar. Shame on Oscar for selling the Ring magazine. The Ring magazine used to be a respected entity. It was supposed to be an independent,
Right.
profile like the Bible of boxing is what it was once called. But now, like you said, it's nothing but a propaganda machine. That's all it is.
It really is. It's like it don't have no integrity to it. No integrity to it anymore. And that's what and it hurts because we used to call like you said we call it the Bible of boxing, the Bible of boxing, and it has no integrity to the at all. This is for like boxing is a gentleman's sport. Like it's a lot of respect and pain in that ring when these guys be in that ring, but the way the business and everything is set up now, they make it not a gentleman's sport anymore. That's why I've been
Yeah.
feeling like it's been so fried, like the space of like, far as like within YouTube and on these social platforms that we be on, talking boxing with a lot of people and stuff. I felt like a lot of the conversations hasn't been intelligent enough for me to even, conquer and have with a lot of people to where you have some of these conversations when we talk about an Albert Bill. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, Shakur ain't no Shakur. He ain't scared of Albert Bill. Yeah, Shakur may not be on his. He may not be scared for Albert Bill to fight him, but his handlers is.
And more importantly than that, his handlers don't believe in him enough to put him in the ring with Albert Bell. Let's take it there.